Okay, so we're on the Chapter 4 assessment breakdown. We've discussed already conditional statements, distance, parallel lines, angle side match, polygon sum, side angle side, and other theorems. And now we're going to discuss the 3 midpoint questions, where they ask us what is the midpoint of certain line segments. And there's actually a shortcut that if you came to Saturday school, you probably know how to do. And if you didn't, that's okay. I'm going to introduce it now. They tell us here, they show us an image here of something that looks like a kite. It's a quadrant or a quadrilateral. They tell us that a quadrilateral is placed at a grid and shown on the right, and they want to know what is the midpoint of segment BD. They want to know what is the midpoint from segment BD. So if I drew a straight line from B to D, they'd want to know what is the midpoint between it. And it would look something like that. Well, in this instance, probably the first thing you should do is you'd probably want to know what the coordinates are of B and of D. So B would be 2 to the right and 5 up. So this would be 2, 5. And D would be 1, 2, 3 to the left and 6 down. So it would be -3 and -6. Now, you'd probably want to maybe use the midpoint formula for this situation here. But you know what? There's actually a shortcut. Obviously, on the graph, we can't go through this line here. But we have other lines on the graph that will help me get from point D to point B. For example, I can go up this way to get to the same height as point D, B, and then I can go to the right, this way here. Well, let's take a look at that. Let's count how many spaces up I have to go and how many spaces to the right I have to go from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's 11 spaces that I have to go up. Then I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces to the right. That's 5 spaces to the right. So if I was going just to the midpoint, if I was just going halfway, well then I would just go half the way up and halfway to the right. Well, what's half of 11? 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. So I would only go up 5.5 spaces. So let me go up 5.5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6. Here's 5.5 spaces right there. And then, well, what's half of 5? 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. So I'm only going to go 2.5 spaces to the right. 1, 2, and there's 3. There's 2, there's 3. There it is. 2.5 spaces right there. And if you notice, I could probably look at the coordinates of that spot right there. Here's 0, here's -1. So I'll be going half a space to the left. And here's 0, here's -1, and half a space down. Half a space to the left and half a space down. And that would tell you the coordinates of your midpoint. Now you could do the midpoint formula, which is the average of your x's and the average of your y's, which would be -3 plus 2 divided by 2, and positive 5 plus -6 divided by 2. Let's take a look at another question here. Well, here now, they don't give me a graph, so I can't use the shortcut. So here I have to use the midpoint formula. They want to know, here's, actually no. Actually, they tell me that the midpoint, that S is the midpoint. And they tell me that the coordinates of R and S are these two right here. So this is R and this is S. And S is the midpoint. And they want me to find what the other point is. Well, remember last class, when we talked about these, we said that the midpoint is the average of the x's and the y's. But here, they're giving us the midpoint, and we have to go to the other side. Well, remember, when you're doing the midpoint, first you add, and then you divide by 2. So now we're going to go in reverse. We're going to start from the midpoint, and we're going to start from here. What's the opposite of dividing? Multiplying. Then what's the opposite of adding? Well, it's going to be subtracting. So I'm going to take these coordinates, my midpoint, I'm going to multiply them by 2, and then I'm going to subtract them from the other one. So here, let's take the first one. 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 minus negative 1 is 11. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, and negative 10 minus negative 3 is negative 7. I know this one's a little tricky. Go back to the other videos and review them. Again, here I have another graph. And again, they're asking us for the y-coordinate of the midpoint. They want to know what is the y-coordinate of the midpoint. So again, you can use the midpoint formula by finding out the coordinates of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 5, comma 2, or 1, 2, 3, to negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so negative 3 and negative 5, or you could just use the shortcut. I can go up to the same side there, count those spaces, and then I can go to the right and count those spaces. Well, how many spaces up am I going? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so that's 7 spaces up. Then how many spaces across am I going? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 spaces across. So what's half of 7? 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So I'm going to go 3.5 spaces up. 1, 2, 3 and a half right here. And then instead of going 4 all the way, I'm only going to go halfway across. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they're asking us for the y-coordinate of that. Well, here's my x-axis, here's my y-axis, here's 0, here's negative 1, here's negative 2. How far down did I go? I only went that far. So the question is, how far down is that? 1, negative 2, it's right in between them. So what would that be?